Cool. Welcome, guys. Welcome to SigNoz Launch Week. So, second version of Launch Week, and today we're very excited to have Pandey with us, and he will be walking us through the Ingest Guard feature which we just launched. And yeah, so welcome, Pandey. Thanks for building this feature. Maybe you can start with just a quick intro about yourself, where you have been earlier, what you're doing now at SigNoz.
Hey, thanks, Pranay, for that. So, hello, I'm Pandey. I was at Mudrex before this. I was heading platform engineering there, and I joined SigNoz about 7 or 8 months ago. That's a very brief introduction about me. We're here to talk about Ingest Guard, and it's one of those features that is very close to my heart as a platform engineer. It helps a lot with a lot of platform use cases that I wished other products would have. I got the opportunity to build it out and at SigNoz, and thanks to Pranay for that. Yeah, that's about me.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting product where, because when we talk to customers, we see a lot of people mentioning that, hey, like observability data is getting out of hand. We have lots of teams within our company which are sending lots of data, and uh, are there any ways to control it, right? So observability being a sort of data which is being generated by machines, it's very important for us to use it judiciously, because if you start sending more data, machines can generate a lot of data, right? And obviously that has got impact in terms of how much you like resources you use, how much cost you pay for that, etc., right? So yeah, that's where we started, like at least I started hearing from talking to our users and customers and our open source community that, hey, this is something which might be very interesting to build, and we thought we should do something around it. But Pandey, maybe you can talk more about how did you go about building the feature? How did you decide what are the key things we want to build here? And yeah, I think let's get started from there.
Definitely, Pranay. So the good thing about Ingest Card is when we started thinking about building this feature, we didn't just want it to, be a place wherein you can just come and configure a lot of keys and be done with it. We asked ourselves, what more can we give to the users out of something as simple as an ingestion key? And that's where we came in the entire concept of introducing limits along with that. As we'll shortly see in the demo as well, I think that's one of the most useful features out of this, wherein not only do you get enhanced security out of using ingest guard, but there is a way for you to control the amount of data you're going to send to SigNoz, which I think can be a game changer for a lot of platform teams out there trying to implement finops, trying to control observability costs, and so forth. So yeah, I think that is where the feature shines, and we wanted it to be a winner feature, and that was the sort of thought process we were in when we tried to solution it out.
Yeah, I think you make a very interesting point. Generally, ingestion key is sort of uh, last thought that, hey, like this is something which we want to use to authenticate and send data, right? But
Right.
the way we have thought about this is more around, hey, like this is not just an auth feature, this is also how we can enable teams to get more secure. So it brings security as a first class citizen in the practices of platform teams, how we can enable better cost control and like better business value through the observability features which you are using, and also helps like the newly emerging FinOps teams on how you can show that, hey, like this is the product which you are using, this is the amount of data we are sending, and how this becomes more and more valuable, right? So yeah, like let's talk a bit more about that. Like how does ingest guard enable security as like a first class citizen?
Definitely. So one of the features of ingest card is as while you're trying to configure any ingestion key, right? The UI is made intuitively in a way that we make you think about security from the point you start configuring it. So when we'll walk through the demo, we'll see that Something as small as expiry, right? We've given priority to things like expiry, and we ask you to configure an expiry beforehand so that you know when your ingestion key is going to expire. Is it an ephemeral key? Will you just give it to a team and then forget about it? And then that becomes a security loophole that someone has to come and then resolve, etc. So we've tried to remove all of that limitations by proactively prompting you to think about security whenever you're trying to interact with ingest card. So the product is built around security and finops in general. When once you start configuring limits as well, as you shortly see in the demo, that we make you think constantly how to set limits, what limits you need to set, and the like. So yeah, I think it's great that way.
Got it. Yeah, I think people can want to check out the complete demo, may can see your launch week post around this, but maybe Pandey, for the users here, we can quickly show them what the feature looks like so that they get a sense on like what we are talking about here.
Sure, yeah. So this is the landing page of the ingest guard feature. And we were talking about security earlier, and I'd just like to highlight the same again here. When you try to create a new ingestion key, as you notice that expiration here is a field that you have to fill out. So we make you proactively think about security starting from when you try to create your key. So let me just, for a very short demo, create an ingestion key here. Name it demo key, for
So,
example.
quick question here, Pandey. What if people don't have an expiration key in mind? Are you saying that people, when they're creating ingestion key, should think about an expiration date? Is that sort of the thought process here?
Yeah, that is exactly the thought process here. So there's always this problem in security wherein you have long-lived credentials who don't have any head, or they don't have any place, and they stay in the system. And it's generally a security best practice to have keys which are rotatable, easy to rotate, easy to expire. So that's what we want to focus on here with this
Got
expiration fee.
got it.
Right. You can just then click on create a new ingestion key, and here is your newly created ingestion key. A quick reminder of how limits work here. And guys, please do check out the full demo to get a better idea of how this feature works in general. If you click on limits here, as we said, we force you to think about what limits you need to put here. So for example, you've got a logs limit, and let me just quickly put down maybe 100 gigs here, and 200 gigs here. If you try to click on save, we have a nice validation system built as well, which tells you that your second limit cannot be greater than your daily limit, which obviously makes sense. Your second limit has to be lesser. So let us put in some quick values here and save. And here is your limit configured with real-time updates of what's happening. So when you start ingesting data, you will see how much daily data you've used, how much daily data is left. Similarly, with the second limit here. And in the same way, you can do it for traces and metrics as well. So this is a very short demo of how the ingest guard feature works.
Got it. And I think you also had something called tags while creating the key. Can you talk more about that?
Definitely. So a lot of infrastructure as code practices generally have this feature called tags, wherein you want to tag it with a cost center, or you want to tag it with a team or an environment per se, so that you know which team/cost center this belongs to. And that's where tags play a huge role. They help you organize your keys in a much better fashion. So as an example, if the environment was staging, you can maybe create a key called staging here, or environment colon staging here, whatever you feel is the best practice in your company, and just save it.
Got it. Got it. Cool. Yeah, I think this looks pretty interesting. How can like FinOps teams use this today? I think you mentioned that security was one of the pillars, and then FinOps was sort of the other persona you're trying to reach out through this. So for a FinOps person, right? I am in FinOps. I'm trying to see, hey, like what are the services I'm using? what are the business value it is getting to me? How can they use it?
Right. So let's take a example to demonstrate that, and let's say that I'm say a decent sized company, and I have say 5 or 6 teams, engineering teams, which all send observability data. So the way to approach ingest guard for a FinOps professional would be to create a key per team. Say, so for example, let's call team A, and I create a key for team A, give it an expiry, create the ingestion key, right? And then I can control the amount of data they send to SigNoz via their key. So I know I'm going to give this key to team A, and let's say the requirement for team A, the daily requirement for team A is say 100 gigs, and the second requirement is 20 gigs, right? So I know that my team, the team A, is going to be capped at 100 gigs a logs no matter what happens, right? Similarly, I can create keys for other teams as well. So this is a great way to ensure no team is going over budget in their observability data, right? Just one of the few ways that you can use the ingest guard feature. Other more common ways would be to create keys per environment. So for example, you have a staging, a UAT, and a production environment, so maybe create keys along those lines, right? Or a even more granular way could be to create it per microservice if you're running a microservices architecture. So maybe create one ingestion key for the account service, one ingestion key for the wallet service, whatever, right? So a lot of permutation and combination can be enabled via this ingest guard feature, and hopefully these three examples make sense.
Yeah, I think it definitely makes sense. I also see you have a daily limit and then a seconds limit. Why is there a seconds limit?
That's a very interesting question. And the problem with, let me talk about the problem with only having a daily limit, right? Usually, when you're running production systems, there might be a spike somewhere in the day which might end up using all your daily limit. So, for example, you set your daily limit at 100 gigs, and for some reason or due to some production push, you got say 50 GBs of logs in a matter of minutes, right? Your daily quota will then get exhausted. A way to fine tune that is to put seconds limit as well, wherein you know, hey, my daily quota is 100 gigs, but for unexpected spikes in the system, let me put down the seconds limit as 20 gigs or 30 gigs so that my daily limit isn't exhausted. One more way to think about this would be to consider this as a two-dimensional graph, wherein the second limit is the max vertical you can go in a day, and your daily limit is the max horizontal line. So it's a box which you've created, and you can ingest data in that box, if that makes
Got
sense.
got it. Yeah, I think that's very interesting. One use case which I've frequently heard from our customers and users is that, hey, like I have like multiple teams which are using observability, and today I don't have any visibility on how much they are using it. Uh, so
Right.
do you think data uses based on ingestion key also might make sense? So today in the product, I see you have created a ingestion limit as
Right.
such, but this still doesn't give you any visibility on like, hey, how much data is a particular ingestion key setting. So is that something in the roadmap, or could be potentially useful, or how are you thinking about it?
Definitely, definitely. That's a very valid point. And I think a natural extension of this ingest guard feature would be to introduce visibility into things like usage, right? How much is my team ingesting? At what times is a particular team ingesting? And all of this can be enabled after this feature. So this sets a good base for us to build these features on top of it.
Got it. And like, so this looks pretty interesting already. I think our customers would would be very interested in checking it out, and I would urge everybody who's looking it to check this out and give us your feedback. We are still like, this is the V1 of this feature, and I think the broader idea is how do we handle this whole domain of giving the platform teams and engineering teams more visibility of what they are sending, how they are sending it, how they are using it, and how much value is it adding to their business, right? Because it can be that you are sending a lot of data through logs, but how much is it being queried, right? So I think maybe just an idea for you, Pandey, that hey, we are sending 600 GB of logs maybe daily, right? How much is
Right.
it being queried daily? That might be an interesting question, right?
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah.
That hey, because many times when I talk to our users and customers, they don't know generally, and it's like platform team which come and say that hey, I have like 6 TBs of log per day, uh, but I don't know which is being used, which is not being used, or how much value is it giving, right? So I think that could be an area which might be an interesting thing to think more about. What are your plans for this feature? What are you thinking more to build here around this?
Yeah, definitely. And Pranay, you raised a very interesting, thought-provoking question there. That how can we now link this to usage? Because the next most common thing is, hey, I'm a team is sending 6 TBs of logs, and the platform team or the FinOps team is telling them you need to optimize it, but they don't have any actionables. What should I optimize on? And I think that is an area that sounds very interesting. That okay, hey, you're sending 6 TB, but you're just querying only these 2 TBs of logs. So maybe that's a very good optimization insight. Apart from that, the next pipeline features that we have is to build alerts on top of this. Definitely, we want to alert you when you've hit a particular limit on a particular signal on a particular key, so that you can proactively then respond back to it. That's one of the things that we want to roll out as soon as possible. Apart from that, we can play a little bit around with the limiter settings. So right now we have a daily limit and second limit, but is it a good idea to add a minute limit, or say monthly limit, or say yearly limit? Let's hear feedback from our customers and the wider community, and to see if that is a good use case to build on, maybe something to consider. And yeah, I think that's all that we have in the pipeline right now.
Or I think one interesting idea would also be to include the idea of teams inbuilt in the product. I think as a team we have discussed around hey, like how can we incorporate this idea of multiple teams in the product itself, right? For example, we know today engineering teams work in pods. For example, some teams are particularly responsible for some functions, and even the responsibility of maintaining that those services are assigned to each particular team, right? So I think in the broader product in coming roadmap we'll be integrating that idea. It might also be interesting for you to like consider or like check this out if there's an interest that hey, can this the idea of teams be an integrated uh, data field in the ingest card feature itself, that for each team somebody need not assign a tag which we are doing now, but you can say that hey, like for this team this is the two ingestion kits which we have generated, and this is the sort of the uses they are doing. Because from what I have had heard with chatting with customers that hey, like they generally assign budget based on teams, and that's how they sort of internally try to manage. So might be good idea to natively bring that feature up in this product.
Definitely, definitely. I think that's a brilliant idea to integrate the entire ingest cart experience with the team's experience. It'll be a very streamlined experience for teams to onboard onto as well. Definitely.
Yeah, but like to the people who are listening, this is just our first sort of venture in this area of features. Till now, we have been primarily focusing on hey, can we build our logs product more feature rich, traces product, metrics product, right? So I think we are sort of getting there, and now we are trying to explore new things which we are hearing from our users. So would love any feature, any feedback on the feature, what you would like to see next. Do reach out to us on Slack community, or just email me and then or Pandey, and then we can. So we are definitely looking for more feedback here and like what people would like to see here. Uh, Pandey, any sort of last words you have for the users or viewers who are seeing this?
No, no, Pranay, you said it all, but yes, feedback is appreciated, guys. As much feedback as we can get. So looking forward to chatting with any one of you in the SigNoz community, or feel free to mail us as well.
Yeah, cool, Pandit. That. Thanks for introducing the feature, and great chatting with you. See you.